Ego and image are a big part of what makes YouTube, and generally the gaming sphere, so negative. It's pretty common for people to irrationally feel like victims when either the ego or the image of somebody is attacked. Now, just before I start this video, this is in no way a piece to discredit victims of real physical, emotional, or mental abuse. This solely exists to point out the ego and entitlement of content creators and people who are vocal in the gaming sphere. Nothing else. I do not condone the harassment of anybody mentioned in today's video. I just want to give you something to think about that will hopefully make you more critical about the people in the general sphere of media. With that out of the way, let's start with the dumbest thing I've seen in a while. New Mr. Beast drama. I mean, he's kind of involved in drama every week, but this one's especially stupid. The recent drama stems back to a video that is nearly 2 years old and mostly wiped from the consciousness of everyone. Or rather, everyone but Rosanna Pansino. She's upset about getting 4th place in the video, when she supposedly got 3rd and saying that they can't take that away from her. But it's so inconsequential and irrelevant. What does it matter that you lost a match so long ago? And what about losing that match makes you a victim who is seemingly implying that this is a choice based in misogyny? Now, I sat through around 4 hours of podcast to try to understand where she's coming from. And surprise, surprise, her points don't really exist. The first hour and 4 minutes of Trisha Ps Podcast is her talking about actual alleged problems that she experienced in the acting industry, bringing up things from her past in reality TV that are valid and, if true, tell a story of exploitation and manipulation. But her trying to relate it to Jimmy is some weird pseudo-not-so-correlation. I mean, she has talked about questioning the legitimacy of his videos and has a little evidence to indicate that, but her claims of misogyny are baseless and kind of slanderous. She spends so much time dragging his name and saying nothing outside of, "It hurts my feelings and reminds me of misogyny in the past." And when she was on the H3 podcast, Pokimane said that you face so much misogyny that the little things are the stuff that boil over, but that is just a bad faith argument given the time frame. Why should you throw an accusation at somebody, seemingly baselessly, and go out of your way to describe the situation as if some great evil were committed against you, when in reality, you just weren't portrayed as top 3 in hide and seek? You'll notice that the podcast she went on have a certain group of people who like to play up their own victimhood whenever controversy comes their way. Which is not to say that they haven't gotten better, just trying to help you understand that these people probably only wish to validate her feelings and not find the root of the problem. Jimmy making the video more entertaining did not make her look any worse or incompetent. It just existed as part of the video. To call it anything more than harmless, entertaining video editing on an already ambiguous ending is just lazy and harmful. She says it was an attack on her self-image and that they couldn't rob her of the happiness she got from it. But she posted 29 tweets, including retweets, treating the allegations as if something way worse had happened because she wasn't in the video long enough. I mean, talk about ego. And ego, of course, isn't exclusive to her. Every creator who does it as a job has an overinflated sense of self, but they tend to hide it. Now, Jimmy's ideal video conflicted with how Rosanna felt she should be portrayed, which means nothing. And the podcast host should not have been acting like he's an awful person for making engaging content. I mean, they say Mr. Beast should have responded to her feelings with sensitivity. But when you throw out these kinds of allegations, it's a business problem, and being sensitive shouldn't be the first concern of the person you levied them against, especially when you're trying to get more dirt on them. There is no room for you to be kind and catering against somebody who is very obviously wishing the worst on you, and he had no obligation to do so. Both podcasts constantly praise her and say she only talks about things when they're actually problems and that her opinion is held so highly, but that's just not a good way to go about things.
When you speak, and I mean this as genuinely and sincerely, when you do speak about things, people listen to you because you're not drama. You've never been someone to just talk about random people or take little events, So I think your voice is 10 times more powerful than most people's because you don't speak up on too many things. So when you do speak, it's like, whoa, this is real,
Yeah.
And I know there's other instances in the past too where you've spoken up on other people's behalf and then people are finally like, oh no, this is the truth because Ro never speaks up and she's speaking up about this. So I think your voice is one of the most important ones because of that, especially with stuff like this. And the way you talk about it, it's not negative. You still have so much love for like Mr. Beast and all these people. And even
Either they're singing her praises too highly, or they put her opinion on a pedestal. My guess is since she is right in front of them, they're singing her praises to overinflate her ego and build rapport with the audience. Oh, she's such a good person, she can never do anything bad. It's kind of just a repulsive way to say she can't be wrong, and that her opinions are so great, even though she has since apologized, which wasn't even really an apology, but more so functioned as a, I got so many death threats that I just have to back out of this, further playing up her victimhood. But that's neither here nor there. This is something we've seen in the past, where people will do something irrational, and then when they get pushback from the community, play victim. Like the Sniper Wolf drama we covered, except nowhere near as extreme. People let their ego go unchecked on something minor, and it leads to consequences that end up having them act like the victim. It's too common in the creator sphere. This creator is better than other creators, or felt betrayed by this creator, so they have to be treated like an aggressor, constantly dogged on by the internet for accusations that hold no ground. A lot of large content creators outside of YouTube have a victim mentality when we reflect on people like XQC, Aiden Ross, and so many others that when met with criticism go into these manic tirades about the amount of work they put in and that they don't care about how much of a problem the things they do are. And to be frank, it doesn't matter how much work you put in and how good it makes you feel. If you are in the public eye and do something, your choice will always be put under scrutiny, deservedly or not. And yes, a lot of the complaints boil down to just mean words and no sense of understanding. And realistically, no one has the time to go watch 2 podcasts that total up to 6 hours, with 4 hours of it being relevant to the discussion and ending up as a nothing burger. Though I think tweets like this were a little unnecessary and could have been something a little more elaborate and not just a big you, especially when it comes to creators doing it. If you're a creator and make it this far, set a good example. People will cast judgment on things whether they understand it or not. And that's just unhealthy. All these parasocial viewers love harassment campaigns and casting judgment with no reason outside of he said, she said. Many viewers build up this image of content creators where they believe this person is so great and that when that person makes a mistake, they can do no wrong. Look at the whole dream cheating thing. People denied for months when given solid proof, and it tells you that viewers value the image of somebody in their head more than they value the truth. Everyone should be critical, but you can't expect the Twitter mob to do that, especially when you pack useless information behind a large time gate instead of in a small tweet. I mean, look at any drama and you'll get a TLDR. They don't want to look into something and form their own opinion. They either want to be told how to feel or make an opinion based on a small amount of information. Creators should uphold a positive image and shouldn't be somebody that causes more problems than they're worth. And that's true for everybody. Now back to Rosanna and why would she do something like this? A lot of people are arguing that it's for attention, but I don't think that's the case. I think it's more likely that when she talked to her friends and family, they convinced her that she was wronged. And you could probably get that impression as well if you watch the podcast. It's easy to ignore things when it's just you, but when a lot of people tell you that, man, you did so well, why didn't they show that? You start to believe that maybe it's more than just a guy making an entertaining video. Now, before I move on to the second half of the video, I just want to bring up that her questioning the legitimacy of the video is a fair complaint, but no one was surprised that they were edited to be more entertaining. It's not like he's cheating people of things, he's just making the ending more ambiguous and loud to better keep the audience invested in the content. The H3 podcast says, why not just hire actors? But he is acting with good intentions, helping people that need the money and random subscribers. Hiring actors would mean that there is no philanthropy involved, which goes against basically his entire brand. Also, having actors means that he wouldn't scrap millions of dollars worth of videos a year, because there would be no reason to spend millions. My opinion is, they're doing and saying these things about him because he's such a large content creator and because everybody on Twitter wants the philanthropist to be the Antichrist, so it's an easy audience to pander to. A lot of people view his good guy image as a cover-up, and they back it up from Jimmy generally talking with a very inflated sense of self on podcasts. But good people can have iffy personalities and still do good things. Now, the remainder of this video will be about video gaming communities and how their ideal version of the game causes harassment and problems, so if you're only interested in the Mr. Beast drama, you can leave, nothing else will be said about it. Now, this sort of relates to a problem I wanted to talk about. So I'm sure you know that a lot of gaming communities have very toxic things going on. Imagine somebody has this belief that a certain game or piece of media should be the way that they or a close group of people imagine the media should be. So much so that they harass voice actors, developers, and other people in the community as some weird way to encourage change. Take the Minecraft mob vote for an example. People want all 3 mobs, but fail to acknowledge that removing the mob vote lowers the interaction the game gets that time of year, and that community choice with the game will significantly decrease. But that's not how the hate mob views it. They view it as a chance to harass somebody involved in it, starting a propaganda campaign that sort of devolved into a harassment campaign that ultimately, thankfully, got ignored. I understand that when something you want doesn't get added, it can be upsetting, but is it right for your image of the ideal version of the game to devolve into harassment of anybody in the community? No, probably not. I mean, complaining doesn't get much done for billion-dollar companies. And this is not to say that everyone involved is deplorable and hateful, I just mean that all gaming communities are full of people who complain day in and day out. How many times does a new Call of Duty come out and people complain that it's worse than the last, or that X game is better? The answer is, every year. Why do people feel so attached to games that bring them such great amounts of stress and displeasure, that they have to share negativity with those around them? Can their ideal game exist? I mean, the ego of the suits and their want to make money trumps anything the players want, and it's understandable to be against the cash grab games with battle passes and so much more. But do people have to harass everyone except the suits? The developers have no say in the time frame. Voice actors don't make the game, and neither do community members or YouTubers. The real problem gamers have is with the people who stand on the top of the ladder. But they are impossible to access, and instead of being reasonable, these communities have a bunch of goons rise up and harass anyone they view as against them. And when there are problems with the content, developers made, like new characters, instead of helping the developers understand the problem, they just harass everybody involved until they get the character the way they desire. Like Brigitte in Overwatch, where she changed the meta so much that the players were sending death threats to the voice actor, or how people thought Zhongli in Genshin was too weak, so they again harassed and complained until it got changed. It's never-ending complaints in the gaming community, and people just expect more and more, and developers can't always give more. They are at the will of those above them, and oftentimes, people who have no say end up being ostracized for their limited involvement or opposing opinion. These communities should be against the greed of corporations, but shouldn't be putting that blame on people who are just doing their job or just sharing their opinion. I think it's important that we're not only critical with what we're given, but also critical of our reactions and feelings to things. That goes for both how we interact and perceive creators and how we react to things in games. Don't play a game if it makes you unhappy. Don't watch a creator if you feel they've done wrong or you don't like them. You don't have to have a popular opinion, and you don't have to agree with the image somebody has. Interact with the things you like and be critical of the things you agree and disagree with. Thank you for watching. I just wanted to talk about this stuff. It's important we think, and if you enjoyed, do the normal stuff YouTubers recommend.